In recent days, federal agents have knocked on the doors of family, friends, and former employees, not because they found a crime, because they're simply trying to after my mean tweets. He's coming after me because I'm considering running for president.
And so obviously there's been a ton of cases that have raised a lot of questions that were brought against Donald Trump's political enemies, including the indictment of former FBI Director James Comey over a photo of seashells that he took on a beach. And so there are a lot of questions about whether this is along those same lines. But what we do know, and have been able to report alongside with our colleague Kelly O'Donnell here, is that this investigation isn't being run out of Los Angeles, where there's a Trump loyalist installed, but is instead out of the Central District, or rather the Eastern District of California, and could potentially stem from another investigation that was closed last month into Newsom's former chief of staff, in which that individual pleaded guilty to some crimes. So that might have sort of grown out of that investigation. But obviously, with a lot of the cases that have been dismissed that have been brought against Donald Trump's enemies, it's raising a lot of questions about what the origin of this original investigation was.
Ryan, what about the president? Have we heard anything from President Trump or from the Justice Department on this?
Yeah, we haven't yet heard from President Trump on this, but he did make that comment last year about wanting to see Newsom arrested, and obviously Newsom is one of the most aggressive people going after Donald Trump on social media, and that's what he sort of thinks this is all about. But because of all of these cases in the past, including an attempted indictment of 6 sitting members of Congress over a social media video that Trump doesn't like, it does raise these general questions about what was the origin of this investigation? Is this of merit, or is this really something that is being politically driven by the White House?
All right, Ryan Riley with the late breaking details. Thank you so much, Ryan. And as we wait to learn more about the agreement between the U.S. and Iran, President Donald Trump says the Strait of Hormuz is partially open. But according to an analysis by Marine Traffic, it appears only one oil tanker has passed through the strait so far since the announcement of the peace deal. And we should note NBC News has sped up that video. Now, the key shipping lane that borders Iran, it has largely been cut off since the start of this war. Normally, about 20% of the world's oil passes through the strait. President Trump said even though it will take a few days for the strait to fully reopen, the positive economic impacts are already being felt.
A lot of great things are going to happen in the Middle East right now. And very importantly, the oil is plummeting down and the stock market is shooting up like a rocket.
Let's bring in NBC's NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung. Sorry, Brian, it's been an afternoon.
Long title.
All right. The president has said for weeks that once this war is over, oil prices, inflation are just going to shoot down to what they were before. What are analysts saying about the potential timeline here to where we get to the gas prices being where they were before?
Yeah, and look, it is true that oil prices are falling as a result of the developments over, let's call it, the last day or so. Oil currently trading around $80 a barrel. You have to remember, it was something like $100, $110 just a few weeks ago. And for that reason, that's going to bleed through the prices at the pump as well. Currently, the average is $4.06 a gallon, according to AAA. And there's good reason to think that could fall below the $4 mark as soon as tomorrow. But I should remind people that pre-war levels were somewhere closer to $2.98. And you have some analysts like those over at Kepler that say this could take months. Quote, this is coming from an analyst over at Kepler, a return to normal shipping patterns will likely take months rather than weeks. The strait may reopen quickly, but again, this is a very fragile situation, Vicky. I mean, there was a ceasefire at one point in April, and you remember that was quickly undone within the course of a day, so we'll have to see.
Right, absolutely. Long way till Friday.
Yeah.
Brian, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is now at its lowest level since the 1980s. Should we be concerned? How big of a deal is that?
Yeah, and arguably the U.S. and other nations tapping their strategic petroleum reserves has been a large reason why oil prices and gas prices that we've been seeing at the pump haven't gone higher. A lot of analysts at the beginning of this conflict were telling me they could see prices going well above where they ultimately peaked at a few weeks ago. But again, the story here is that once there does hopefully resume normal passage of these oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz, all those countries are going to have to rebuild up those buffers. That could take a while.
What if you've been holding off on a plane ticket for summer travel? Could we see airfare going down as jet fuel prices and oil prices go down?
Yeah, and look, the story could be very similar with the prices at the pump with jet fuel costs as well. A lot of those airlines are hoping that those prices will come down. But again, based off what I just said, it's going to take a while, potentially months, to get those oil tankers going through at the same volume as compared to prior to this war beginning. For that reason, it's not going to be a matter of days before jet fuel costs go down and then airfares go down as well. So if you're trying to plan summer travel, it's already June. It might be until after the summer that we see airfares reflect that, but we'll have to see.
After the summer. All right, Brian Chung with the timeline. Thank you so much.